welcome back to the Engler Journey podcast. Today I have the pleasure with being with one of the most hardworking people in the Engler program, Alivia Knoerzer.
Yep.
So I'm so excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, and I want to start off with the Engler program. So I know it's had a large impact on your life. So what does the Engler program mean to you, and why did you want to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so kind of getting into Engler is kind of a funny story because I literally was talking to a friend of mine that was in college, and I get a picture of the building, and the building's brand new, and I go, oh, that's a really cool building, because I started college in architecture, interior design. And so I was like, ooh, fancy building, seems like a cool place. Come and tour it with Tom Field over the summer, going to NAYI. And I was like, oh, I love this place. Still really having no idea what Engler is. And then after freshman year, I was like, yeah, this is home. This is exactly where I need to be. And it's people that continue to push me to become someone that's achieving more than like I ever would have imagined, and just pushing me to become the best version of myself, for sure. So yeah. I don't know. It's just home away from home and major community that is life-changing.
Yeah, and I know that you've had some leadership roles within the Engler program. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so I'm on the experience team, and then I facilitate Brave Convos. Starting with the experience team, I think because the experience team is kind of newer this year, it used to be called the culture team. The experience team, we want to embody the community as like building it into a family. And I think creating experiences that allow us to continue to connect and build this community that is home away from home for a lot of students. And every week we have our meetings, and I think the way we work together is really unique and really cool, because we're constantly thinking about, okay, well, what if we did this? How can we continue to bring people back into the program that kind of have drifted away? Or how can we continue to just love everyone really well so that they can continue to chase what they're chasing after? And then for Brave Convos, it's really sweet because we just had Brave Retreat this last weekend with Liz Cardiello and Laura, and BRAVE is an acronym for building rapport, or being present, rapport, active listening, vulnerability, and empathy. And every week on Wednesdays, girls gather in the space Wednesday mornings from 8 to 9. And it's super sweet because you just get to ask super intentional questions. And each week we start with, okay, what's something you're proud of, what's something you're excited for, and what's something you're grateful for. And starting with that, it just allows you to kind of recap, okay, what have I been up to? How great is life, and then what can I look forward to? And then we kind of dive into something a little bit deeper after that, and kind of looking at, okay, how am I mentally, like what's my internal noise look like, and how can I make sure that I'm doing what's best for me in my journey moving forward so I can love others super well. And so with the combination of just being in leadership with experienced team, but then also Brave Convos and building those relationships with the girls and like the women in Engler is super special, and has definitely altered who I am personally, because I know sophomore year when I went to Brave for the very first time, I was completely lost because I had just changed my major. I was undecided. I came back from a summer at a church camp and literally didn't know where to go. And I came in and they're like, okay, who do you see yourself being in the future? And I was like this super peaceful, graceful person. And it's like, hey, who are you now? And I was like, ooh, I'm a little mean on myself. Like I can be really hard because I am a perfectionist. And I think my biggest fear is never reaching my fullest potential. And that's terrifying. And I think a lot of people in the Engler program can relate to that, because we're always striving for more. And so knowing that, okay, who are you today and where do you want to be? You have to alter how you talk to yourself and how you think now in order to get to where you want to go. And so I think with those two things, it's been really special. And that's like completely why I love Engler so much, because I've completely changed from my freshman year to who I am now as a senior.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great. And I think like the Engler program, I mean, when I think about it, it's so interesting because it's more than just a place to come and take classes. It's a community.
Absolutely.
But while we're talking about classes, what's one of your favorite classes you've taken in the Engler program?
That's a good one. You know, I was into real estate for a while because I started in architecture. I kind of love that. So I took that one with Dave, and I love that. I think about roadmap a lot with Hallie, and this was my sophomore year, fall semester, coming back from the church camp, and I remember going to her because you think about, okay, what would your what would you do, or what does your life look like in a 5-year span of what you're doing right now? Okay, what would it look like if you didn't do that? And then what would you do if you could just do whatever you wanted in the world without money or fame being a problem? And I remember going to her and crying and being like, dude, I have no idea what I want to do next semester. Like, how am I supposed to look at 5 years? All I knew is that the last one of like, if you could do anything you want, I was like, oh, I just travel the world. Like, I'd go do that and take pictures and do whatever. But I think Roadmap has a really special place for me because it made me so mad. And so there's that. And then the last one, I would say, I think 101's always special, and I think everyone can say that's their favorite. But I think like lessons learned in different classes is really neat. So I want to go to 201, which was 275 when I took it, which is funny because I always mix up what it is now versus what it was. But I started a Christian-based sticker business, and I did all of my classmates' logos. And I remember Brennan being like, Liv, why don't you just do logos? And I was like, no, Brennan, hear me out. Like, I want to do these Christian-based stickers. Come back from that church camp, and I was like, you know what? I really did enjoy doing the logos. So I called it Logos.byliv, which is now Marked, making your mark. So it's just kind of crazy how that started something that I didn't really know that was there, for them to be challenged, and then for me to like, it took me a little bit because I'm very stubborn, and so I was like, no, hear me out. But I was like, no, stickers aren't going anywhere, and I can use my talents in a way cooler way. So yeah, I'd say those mixture of classes definitely taught me some really cool things.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, like how you finally got to Marked.byliv is because of those stickers. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So what are some other like logos you've done with the business?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of different stuff. So Marked specifically, it's been interesting because I feel like I've continuously pivoted and kind of refined, okay, what does Marked look like? What am I trying to get to? And I think finally I'm kind of to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I know where I want to go. But some businesses specifically that I've worked with, Lightbox Coaching and Consulting, I'm rebranding a lot of their work right now, so that's really fun. Dr. Helen Fagan, who's a professor and author of the book Becoming Inclusive, I took her class and got connected to her through Hallie, and I format all of her guidebooks. So she wrote 12 guidebooks to work through the book that she wrote, and so I format all of those. So that's a really fun project. Logos specifically, Black Dirt Boutique, W Silver, Seeds and Strings, Logan Greeno in his Revive Bake Co., Smitty's Mobile Bar. I love looking in the garage because I'm like, ooh, I did that one. That one. That's fun. And so, I don't know. I think I've done a lot, and I know I'm probably missing some, so I'm sorry if I have. But, yeah, it's something that I really enjoy, and I love that I've started at Engler because it's like I get to help others make their mark in such a cool and unique way, and that's the mission of Engler, is to helping others make their mark through tailored branding and graphic design. And now, like, looking towards the future of my business, it's more, okay, looking at businesses and kind of becoming a fractional CMO and being like, okay, what does your branding efforts look like? How can we make sure your verbiage is good and your marketing efforts are good? And I come in and be like, okay, you can look so much more cohesive if we change this. Now start practicing this and let's see where you can go. And so working on that, kind of doing some customer discovery with that, but I definitely think that cohesiveness in a business is crucial to making your mark and being identifiable in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Marked.
Yeah, so you really get to make an impact on so many people in the Engler program and give back.
Yeah. And that's a huge part of too of like just I think who I am, of I know the impact that Engler's made and just like how important like everyone's like every interaction I have, I think shapes me into who I am. And I think that's huge. And I know Tom talks about that in his 101. And if you listen to Alexis Jansen's podcast, she talks about it and how she has a piece of sandpaper still in her bag because of the lesson that Tom taught on it. And so understanding how important people's like interactions with people are and giving back to those people and trying to just make the world a little bit better, because in a world full of chaos, that's all you can really do.
Yeah. And what's your other business?
Yeah.
Is it the photography business?
Yep.
Okay. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so it's called Thrive Imaging. I actually just separated Marked and Thrive to become two different things because over the summer I went to Europe for 3.5 weeks.
Oh,
and took close to 20,000 photos, I think. I might be a little exaggerating it, but it's up there for sure. And And learning through that, I was like, oh, I love this. Like, I love having my camera in my hands. And I kind of knew that, but really didn't have the opportunity to go try it. And so this summer, then I got back and my friend got engaged. And so I took the proposal pictures, and my sister, I'm going to be an aunt in February. So I took her like expecting photos and like announcement photos. I just took senior pictures last night, actually. So that was really fun. But the purpose behind Thrive and why it's called Thrive is because my favorite Bible verse is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. The word prosper also means to thrive. My word in Engler is thrive. And I remember I had sent out I was in Enterprise Studios. I actually just dropped out. I need kind of a break. I'm super involved. I'm a little busy. So kind of learning to say no is also a huge turning point for me. And Engler has encouraged me to learn how to do that. It's super hard to do. But anyway, so Thrive. I originally was like, oh, I could do like Liv EG photography because it's funny, my middle name's Grace. AGK photos, Alivia Knoerzer, like, you know, like all the basic ones where it includes my name and stuff. And Seth Wright pulled me aside and he's like, Liv, why don't you try something like, make it unique, like make it yours, use like, maybe don't do your name. Like, I know it's easy to do and stuff, but like do something that's meaningful to you. And I was like, ooh, dang, like, yeah, call me out. Like, that was good. And so it kind of took me a little bit to really think about it, but I'm sitting in my desk in the office space, and I have my mug because it says Thrive on it, has my little cross on like the handle, and I'm looking at it and I was like, duh. Like, of course it's Thrive. Like, that makes so much sense. And like the meaning behind it too, of just like, I want to capture the moments that matter, and what better way to do that than like God purposely makes us like to prosper. Like, he makes prosperous moments. And so how can I capture those? And it was super sweet. My boyfriend's niece just got baptized and I got invited. And so I was like, I'll have my camera, like I'll take pictures. And I went and captured them. And like, how sweet of a moment to always have that like captured. And I think that's an important thing of like capturing unique personalities that allow you to show just how good life is. And I think even like some of the sad, sweet moments are good to capture as well, because it just shows you the authenticity of life. I've really enjoyed diving into photography. I did a little bit of videography, maybe something I want to get into a little bit more, but the photography side has been really, really fun to play around with.
Yeah, so with both your businesses, you're really in the people business. You're really working for the people and helping them thrive, like you're saying with your photography business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So talking about Engler and talking about students that want to come to the program, what would you tell them, or in a piece of advice, would you tell them about coming to the program?
Yeah. I feel like recently I've been asked this question quite a bit, which is interesting. I think for current students, and like they're like, oh, how can I get involved? How can I do more? My biggest piece of advice for there, come sit in the space. When I was super lost my sophomore fall semester, I literally just came and sat in the space and did my homework. And just being in the space and interacting with those in the Engler program allows you to just be inspired and encouraged constantly, and having those little conversations when the staff walks through the kitchen. Also, though, when you do come to the space, maybe don't plan on working constantly, because I think we all tend to chat and are like, oh, hey, how was your day? But I love it. And I think that's the biggest part of coming in and just sitting and being present with everyone else. For students that aren't in the program yet, I think my biggest piece of advice to getting into Engler is just go. Honestly, I think just come join, come do something. Like, women, come at 8 o'clock on Wednesday mornings. Like, we'd love to have you. Men, I know they're doing something, but I also think just like come to the space and just ask anyone in the space and be like, hey, what can I do? How can I get started? Take a class, do whatever. And then my overall piece of advice that I want to give is like learning to say no. It's funny because my brother's a freshman this year, and he's in the 101 class that I'm a TA for. And Tom had asked us, he's like, okay, everyone kind of share why you're here, and then what's like your piece of advice you'd like to give. And I go, learn to say no. And I immediately go and introduce my brother to Dave Lamb. And Dave's like, do you just keep saying yes to things, Liv? And I go, yeah, sure do. And Drew goes, maybe you should like take your own advice. And it wasn't until this last week that learning to understand who you are and being like, okay, this is my limit, or hey, this is draining me and not filling me, and understanding that it's okay to let things go and allow other people to take the reins on it, and to allow yourself to grow in a new way, and to take the time to rest and be present with yourself so that you have the energy to not only pour into others, but also go and chase what you want to chase.
Yeah, so that's really what college is about, though, too, like learning and failing.
Absolutely.
And that's really what the Engler program talks about, is failure and learning to fail and being okay with it.
Yes.
So 20 years from now, I always like to ask this question, what will you be the most thankful for being in the Engler program?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think the people overall. I think the memories in the classes are super important, but it's the people that make the experience so much better and like worth it. And it's just a little interactions of, I was roommates with Mads Kreifels and Kaio, and just like those little memories of, hey, we'd come to this space and we'd be here till midnight, and we're like, oh, we could maybe go live where we are supposed to live and not live here. And just like being able to hear other people's stories. And I think that's what's really cool about the podcast, is because it's sitting down and intentionally being like, okay, what is it that you do and why do you do it? And so understanding people's journey and their story is super impactful. And I think the people are what make it, the like world and life, so much better. And so continuing to embrace others will completely alter your future. And so I think in the 20 years, it's definitely the people.
Yes, well, great answer. That's probably what I would say as well. But thanks for being here, Olivia.
Absolutely.
I've loved learning more about your story, and hopefully I'll be able to see some of your photos and your marketing for years to come.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Liv. I appreciate it.